March 2025. One that renews the world. News of propylene surfaced. MH370. Missing for more than 8 years. Is there any more clue? It is said that the Malaysian government secretly approved the Ocean, Infinity's new round of search operations, signed a no-find, no-charge agreement. And here's the curious thing. The search ship has only been at sea for about 2 weeks. He hurried back to Singapore to stand by. Meanwhile, rumors are circulating that during this brief search, there were signs of possible wreckage. Maybe it will be salvaged by the end of the year. This series of reversals let the original mystery. Instantly lively. It seems that new answers are hidden beneath the deep sea, waiting for us to uncover. Now let's be curious. Step by step, sort out the cause and effect of this mystery. Let's see how the conjectures unfold. What's the latest progress? Waiting for an answer in the Dahu Enlightenment class. Early morning of March 8, 2014, it took off from Kuala Lumpur Airport in Malaysia. MH370, carrying 239 passengers and crew. He was on his way to Beijing at that time. No one expected. The plane mysteriously veered shortly after takeoff, off course, then completely lost contact. From civil aviation radar to the final satellite data, no one saw him land safely, leaving only a string of strange trajectories. Satellite analysis suggests that the plane continued to fly for several hours, flying farther and farther. It may eventually plunge into the depths of the southern Indian Ocean. For traces of physical evidence, such as flight recorders, except for the wing picked up on the island of Runavong in 2015. Outside the sporadic wreckage, such as Golden Wing, nothing else found. This search operation become aviation history, the largest surface and seabed search. Multinational ships and aircraft are dispatched. Australia, China, Malaysia. Experts from European Union and other countries participated. Even with the dive search and rescue device, it also covers the formula tracks and the vast ocean speculated by satellites. But in the end, except for 1 or 2 floating fragments, the plane itself is still missing. It took 3 years, an official search costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Finally, in 2017, it was forced to come to an end. The expectations of countless families turned into disappointment in the vast sea. Then, private search company Ocean Infinity. A 6-month underwater search was conducted in 2018, but also failed. Just when people thought the truth would last forever. Some amateurs and decommissioning experts are still tracking MH370, revisit the mystery with a new perspective. They may fly again with emulators, or decrypt satellite data, and they made bold hypotheses. The following we will enter. The reasoning world of several point persons. Take a look at their respective findings and conjectures. In many folk conjectures, a British 4-arm 777 Captain Hardy. Semenhaldi is quite striking. In 2015, he claims that through mathematical analysis and flight emulators, finding the perfect course for MH370's final flight. Hardy thinks the plane was finally stabilized in a distant sea. He imagined a forced landing. Someone in the cockpit of the plane deliberately controls the plane, let it glide on the sea, then slowly sink to the bottom of the sea. He calculated based on satellite trajectories and fuel consumption, locked in an area of the seabed, and he swore at the time. The plane will be located in the coming months. Hardy's analysis attracted media attention. Reports say the search area of Austrian searchers covers exactly where he points. Pity. Ultimately, the official search did not find the wreckage of MH370. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau believes the weather is improving. Change the search area. Anyway, Captain Dai's statement adds a touch of mystery. If airplanes were perfectly silent, then it is possible to be found and salvaged as a whole, rather than debris. At the same time, a French independent investigation team offers another explanation. Former European Aviation Agency project officer Les Passenger Marchand, Jean-Luc Marchand, with retired Captain Patrick Blelly, joined forces. The flight path and known data of the aircraft were studied. They believe that MH370 was deliberately hijacked and committed suicide. Last September, the two are in London. The Royal Aeronautical Society shares research findings. They deduce that the day they lost contact, it may have happened in the cockpit. Tragedy similar to Germanwings 9525. The co-pilot is locked out. The captain sailed alone. Analog reproduction display. MH370 in Malaysian airspace made an unusually sharp turn. Then the transponder and communication system were turned off. According to military radar records, after the plane veered off course, seems to continue to rise to great heights, slowly sinking. There are indications that the pilot is actively operating. And here's what's even more remarkable. They found a copy, the captain's trajectory on his home flight emulator, data route and southern Australia. The Indian Ocean coincides. Therefore, Marchand and Briley proposed that the destination of the plane is fine, a remote sea area preset by the heart, And finally, muddy water with the lowest profile. They also, based on factors such as the direction the wreckage was floating, calculate the coordinates of the plane's final impact on the sea surface, hundreds of kilometers harder to move than the previous search area. That is to say, truth. It may be hidden in a previously unexplored area. Some people jokingly say, if this study is accurate, find the plane in as little as 10 days. Anyway, the point of this hypothesis is that MH370 may have been a suicide hijacking by the captain. He uses ingenious means, bringing the plane to a pole, hidden waters that are hard to find, and British engineer Richard Godfrey. It's a very technological path. He has long been obsessed with the MH370 mystery. Claims to use a method called WSPR, Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, Global Amateur Radio Network, to scan for aircraft traces, WSPR network. It was an amateur radio test, system for weak radio wave transmission. Godfrey went west alone, use it as a passive radar. He analyzed several radio towers in the sky, subtle changes in the signal to the receiving station, after MH370 fell, causing specific interference to these signals. According to his calculations, the exact last location of the plane, locked at 33 degrees, 1.177 minutes south latitude, around 95 degrees, 3 degrees east longitude. That's west of Perth, Australia, nearly 2,000 kilometers in the deep sea, Godfrey declared, very confident that your findings are accurate, and suggest relevant parties around that coordinate. Thorough search within 40 nautical miles. He also guessed, during the flight of the plane, made multiple unnecessary turns to conceal the true course. It didn't sink completely until it ran out of fuel. In his opinion, it was an orchestrated voyage. The pilot seems to have set all these goals on his own initiative. He took the plunge, described as a perfect suicide flight. The plane even reached approximately every minute at the end. 15,000-foot stall, rate of descent, trying to make it look like a crash, landing in the buffer. Although Godfrey's approach is rather controversial, mainstream experts are skeptical about its feasibility. But his story is indeed about MH370. Adds an element of sci-fi suspense, reasoning around all parties. All kinds of conjectures are divided into beds. The latest field operations, by Ocean Infinity. Ocean Infinity to detonate the topic. There was news earlier this year. The Malaysian Ministry of Transport has negotiated with Ocean Infinity. Restart search with no discovery and no charge. March 2024. Representatives of the families of the MH370 victims were present. The search plan was proposed at the 10th anniversary ceremony. At the end of the year, the Malaysian side initially agreed to pay. Until March of this year, the Minister of Transport confirms the terms of the agreement. The family group later said the contract had been signed. Up to $70 million. But official statements remain muted to officially announce the contract. Despite this, in late February this year, Ocean Infinity takes advantage of the biography of the Indian Ocean, quietly dispatched number 7806 of its survey ship Arma, arrived at the search area with 3 unmanned underwater vehicles. The operation was carried out in 2 phases. The first phase starts on February 23rd. Focus on the previous search. Areas with blind spots due to steep terrain. Supplementary collection of high-quality data, in other words, is in the area that has been searched. Fill in the hole. Less than 10 days later, the fleet returns to Fremantle, Australia to resupply, out to sea again. The second phase runs from March 11 to 28. The search area is further than the first stage, difficult and wider, even more than the Ocean Infinity, previously announced plan areas, just as the outside world was expecting a long search, less than a month, and our 7806 turned around and headed towards Singapore. This anomaly has caused controversy in the outside world. Why did you just leave the port and turn back not long after? The official explanation is the arrival of the monsoon season. The weather is getting worse, but many observers point out that there is also the possibility of contract negotiation. What's even more puzzling is, informed sources suggest the company is in the first phase. It appears that signs of suspected debris have been found on the ocean floor. According to discussions in the tracking circle, Second Mom's number 7806 is in the initial search area. A suspicious factory of clutter was found. At one point, I plan to go back for a detailed investigation in the second phase. However, while waiting for the official contract to be signed, they stealthily shifted their search focus to the southwest. No longer disclose specific coordinates. That is to say, after the team returns to Singapore, perhaps while waiting for the wind and waves to subside at the end of the year, set off again with large salvage equipment. In short, some people speculate, if the fragments are found, that momentous discovery will give Ocean Infinity high compensation. So before getting the contract, everything is kept as secret as possible. There are comments that, if you really get some more data at the end of the second issue, this could be the evidence. About this, we don't know the officials' true intentions. But one thing is certain, The search came to a hasty end. Adds suspense to the mystery. Did they really find the wreckage? No clear answer yet. Since the disappearance of MH370, more than 10 spring and autumn have passed, and the answer remains very much in our minds. Who turned off the plane system? Who's the brains behind this? Where did the plane finally rest? And this scene in 2025, undoubtedly injecting new hope into the pursuit of the truth. It also ignited more speculation. Ocean Unlimited's commitment and actions make the outside world think that this mystery has the potential to advance quickly. At the same time, and folk theories continue to come up with new ideas. How will the facts unfold? The end of the year is approaching. If you really set off for salvage, there might be an answer to that. Anyway, the mystery of MH370 is far from solved. We are left with patience and expectation, looking for before the next spring comes to find the wreckage of the plane. This pursuit is still full of unknowns and suspense, waiting for the day when history will finally be revealed.